Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Middle-Aged Mutants Show Live. We are broadcasting to you telepathically from the ice planet Hoth. With all telepathy, emotional transference is unavoidable, so anytime you feel a chill around your balls, it's because it's freaking cold out here. My name is Ty. I'll be your host for the next couple of hours. As always, I'm joined by the Brotherhood of mostly benevolent mutants, Bodz and No-H. Gentlemen, how the hell are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm cold. I'm hanging upside down. I'm trying to reach my lightsaber to cut myself down. So, other than that,
yeah. But how cold are we? Well, that's a mystery because we could be broadcasting from anywhere in the world. Keeping our. I'm sure someone could track it down if they really wanted to.
They're they're cold on this day. Then I know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
The ice planet Hoth.
Y'all had the humidity though. So you had to do ice.
Yeah,
humid on the.
It wasn't so bad as it
grand
normally
part
is.
of the United States. So
yeah, in this, this side of the equator,
exactly.
You said too much.
I've said too much. IP
Go
is being
now.
tracked right now. But yes,
all right. Well,
we're still
let's go ahead and jump into the first topic here. This one's going to be a topic that's kind of it affects Bodz mostly. Todd McFarlane of McFarlane Toys and McFarlane Comics, Spawn, all that good stuff is doing a little bit of a price hike on you, Bodz. Are you going to be able to foot the bill on this one?
I don't know. This affects my family now, Todd McFarlane.
Girl, I have to think about diapers or toys.
Look at that price hike. Look at that. Like it is double.
It was $24.99 before, right? That was kind of standard.
No. Honestly, when it first started, it was about 20. And if it was like a Build-A-Figure, it was 24. $24.99, 25.
So just for those of us who don't collect, Build-A-Figure is where they have the little pieces of other characters in the set, right?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when you buy a Whopper every day and you leave a piece out, and by the end of the week you have a full
you can
Whopper.
Reconstruct the Whopper.
It's basically to incentivize you to buy the entire collection.
Yeah,
that's how they get you to buy like the not so good one.
Yeah,
it's like, well, I want to build the whatever it is. I don't know what this current line with Crisis. I guess the Anti-Monitor. I guess is that what you're building?
Build-A-Figure.
Yeah, I believe it's the Anti-Monitor.
Well, yeah, at least you're building a figure here, but still, that's like $15 more than it was.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember back when
I
remember back when I was more collecting. The Build-A-Figure always kind of annoyed me because I'm like I got the figure I wanted, and usually I figured like whoever the build person was, I never cared enough to actually make it. I don't think I ever got a complete build set. I always stuck with like a leg, or an arm here.
And so, and so like if you're like, oh, I've got this cool Batman and some guy's leg that's on display,
and the ball is hanging out. I don't know if I want this Anti-Monitor.
I don't know if I want, but I'll tell you what, that Superman looks really good right there. So does that Spectre.
Yeah. Even the Spectre, I mean, and I like the Wally West, the Kid Flash. I mean, it's
Psycho Pirate gets no love, so that's nice to see a Psycho Pirate figure.
Crisis is, I guess, if I had to name like my favorite crossover story of all time, it's I feel like it's such a standard. Like if it's saying Crisis on Infinite Earths is like your favorite, it kind of sounds like you don't know any stories. That's your,
that's your go-to. My favorite Batman is Batman.
I've read it like at least
Returns
a few times.
Yeah, it's like saying Dark Knight Returns is my favorite story, which I mean, it is one of my favorites. But just saying that kind of makes you sound like a poser. Crisis is my favorite.
Yeah, I like it so much. Like if I were to collect, this would be what I would get probably. But it's the story that I can still read to this day. Again, which
I guess we should point out that the animated movie just came out. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I've yet to watch it, but and that's how much I like this. I've said before how much I'm not as into the animated things as other people are. I'm willing to watch this, even though you know what animation did to my family, and I'm still
I know.
Waiting. I'm so willing to watch.
Still willing. Now that is forgiveness, ladies and gentlemen.
But the best part about watching this thing, it's included in the streaming, like on Max. I think it is. It would have to be. I assume. Or you buy it or you rent it or something at like its regular price. The price stays the same. It is not hiked because McFarlane is not in charge of it.
He's not in charge of it.
And I gotta assume that there's just these things are popular enough that he can, or maybe they just take a lot
things,
to make.
Like some of them, like if you don't pre-order some of these, you never see them out in the wild.
Yeah, because it looks right here like the Mr. Spectre here is already
sold out. So you'll find that thing like out at like on eBay or at a comic convention. He'll be like probably $60-$80. So it is a little ridiculous.
It's weird. It's funny how this market has become like the omnibus market, where you have basically stuff that's just out of print. And it's just crazy. Now this is the thing. I honestly, just looking at some of these figures, I don't see the appeal. Especially this Superman. Holy cow, his face is horrible. Look at
look at
that.
Oh yeah, that is not a good face.
It is awful.
I do like that the belt looks right, but
I do like the belt, but of the Superman dolls that I've seen him produce, I don't think there's been one that I think the face. I don't think he's nailed the face like once, but I haven't. I don't remember it too many.
I've seen some where he looks super angry, or I've seen some where he looks like. I think I pointed out where it's like his face was like really small, like but in a big face, but really tiny face and a big head.
Out of control. Look at that.
I think they're trying to match the artwork, but I don't remember the S being that big. That thing.
This is supposed to be the Earth 2 version of Superman.
Earth 2.
I'm not, like I said, I haven't read Crisis, so
I don't remember looking. I mean,
here's a picture of him right here.
Pretty much what it looks like.
I guess he does have a little bit of gray in his
not really enough though, And there's like the obvious outline of the diamond in the comics. That's like the gray hair and an outline on the diamond. That's pretty much how you can tell them apart.
Yeah. I don't know. But $40 one action figure. Holy crap, that is so I find that kind of egregious. And
but you get random arms with it.
Tom. Yeah, you get random arms and hands with it. Or actually not random hands, that's Superman's hands. The only thing that I've heard is that because I guess there's a lot of this is highly divided the community from what I understand.
Yeah.
You got people that are saying, well, it's okay. And then you got some people like, oh God, if we start paying for this price point, this is going to become the normal.
This will be the normal,
Apparently there was a guy on YouTube named Toy Gains who it's his YouTube channel. He contacted them and they basically said, well, the tooling is specialized. So with all these new figures in this new tooling that they had to increase the price for that. And most folks are saying that this pretty much looks like every other build and sculpt they've done. So
it's not
the only real difference in this figure right here, especially with Superman, is a wired cape.
That's cool if you're going to display it, because I know a lot of people will custom make capes with wire, so that way they have that dynamic flow to them and stuff.
Yeah,
but not that much extra for that. So I don't know.
This is $15 more than their $24.99 figures. So
which was the normal Build-A-Figure price point. So
that is.
I don't know, but then we've also got, and as Ty and I grew up together, so we liked toys growing up, but he kind of went more along the lines of statues. You started getting some pretty cool statues.
Statue route, yeah.
And remember, we were looking at, I think it was recently, some of the statues, and even the 1 in 12 figures on Sideshow Collectibles, and my gosh, those are expensive. The price points on some of those.
You know,
And
that's one of the reasons I didn't get into the statues, because good grief, man. Like,
yeah,
I remember going to like comic book shops thinking like, oh, that statue is kind of cool. Maybe I might fork over some cash. And I see the price like $500 or something. Like, no.
yeah,
And like the ones that were like affordable or like the tiny ones, I'm like,
yeah.
cool, but come on.
But
I'm
this
like,
is
yeah, we're just not going to do that.
this is kind of like where we
I'm
were.
on Sideshow Collectibles site right now.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I really want this. I really, really want this, but
yeah.
holy crap. As you can see,
Yeah, how much are they charging for that? How much are they?
$270.
$270, which is that's not
It's
like
not that bad.
worst, but it's still like, I mean,
Yeah, but can you pose him in any position you want? Oh, I
Yeah,
guess
you can
can't.
pose them in.
Well,
Well,
never
yeah,
mind.
you can pose them pretty good. The only thing that I've heard about these figures right here is that sometimes you have to be careful about how long you pose them for, because it is fabric over, I guess, kind of an endoskeleton. So the fabric over time will get
stretch.
permanently crease, or it will degrade, or what. I've heard people say all kinds of stuff about this.
Is this the one that if you get shipped to you, you have to assemble it a little bit, like it comes in pieces?
No, as far as I know, he comes with like as you see here, he comes with like hands and stuff. He comes with hands and that kind of thing.
And an apple.
It's
an
apple apparently. But in a base and all that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, you don't have to assemble anything. But yeah, I thought, oh man, I really like Spider-Man 2099. I would love to do something like that. I don't know if for that price point, I don't know if I'd blow my proverbial wad on 2099. I think I might go. What the heck just happened there? I might go for classic Spider-Man, or I even like the new. What the heck is wrong with this website? leave it to Sideshow. Every time I hit go to the next page,
Speaking of Sideshow,
look, it's messed up. Never mind.
I was we recently had some issues with our hot water heater out in the garage, and so I was out there just kind of looking.
Is this a dad Bodz moment?
No, because I would never give this to my children.
Just a regular Bodz.
But I had is from like the early 2000s. It is Ash from Army of Darkness. It was, I guess, back when it was called Sideshow Toys, and it was like a big 1/12 figure. And like it's super cool. And the price of it was back in 2000, I don't know, like probably 2002.
I think back then it was $40.
Yeah, $40, $39.99.
Yeah.
And
that was
and it was just as good as these, a lot of these like figures that come out now. I mean, that statue you just pointed out, no, that's actually really super cool. But like, the normal ones that Hot Toys makes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're right. So if people do start paying these prices,
become the new norm.
Yeah, and that's
maybe they're
what
considering. Maybe they're like, maybe McFarlane's like, he sees at the comics, it's like, people are buying these things for cheap and then turning around selling them like for a crazy hiked up price, making a profit.
It's gotten
he's
so
probably thinking
bad.
like, I should get a piece of that.
It's gotten so bad that like McFarlane has had these things like basically you go and you have to like sign up and go through this weird like verification process to make sure you're not someone just like a robot, or I guess
basically buying them and then scalping them on the secondary market.
Yeah, and so you've got to kind of like win a lotto to get some of them.
That's really crazy. It's basically like, so Sideshow, I guess, is sort of like or McFarlane himself now is sort of like the ticket master of toys, where it's like they're going to continue to sell really expensive things, and there's really unless like the government would have to get directly involved and tell them to stop, and they're never
too
going
much.
to do that.
But
like, why would they ever do that?
There's somebody out there that will pay it.
God,
I know it's like Ticketmaster. If you go to a concert now, like, be prepared to like spend like your. It basically is like, do I want to pay rent and live in my apartment or house, or if I do want to make my mortgage payment, or do I want to go to a concert? It's this is like $40. I'm like, fill up my gas tank, or like,
thanks Biden.
Yeah.
This has totally become a middle-aged mutant like topic right here. We just start ranting about inflation.
It's like real life daily expenses, like
it's crept in. It's crept into our hobbies now, and it's making it. Because remember, I was told I was yelling at the clouds whenever I was like, "Oh my gosh, can you believe the cost of these comic books? They're $5.99 now."
Yeah.
And now it's hit you that now they came for your toys.
And now they came for your toys. Yeah. And that was what was sad. It was like McFarlane Toys were like good and a lower price point. They were affordable, and now it's going to be they're going to eventually just not be anymore. So yeah.
Well, I guess the comics market isn't so great for him, so he's got to make up his money somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be on the backs of you guys. So
until he makes his Spawn movie that he's talked about for the last decade,
20 years.
I've heard such bad things about that Spawn movie recently. Apparently, he's had a big fight with the Blumhouse people, and he was like, "They promised me that they were going to get me a script this month, so I'm going to email them and tell them they promised me that." And he says, "And if I don't get it from them or get anything going soon, I'm just going to do it all myself." And apparently, people have looked at the script. And it's pretty it's Todd McFarlane writing. It's just as bad as his comic books can be. I God bless him. He was a innovative artist. I wouldn't say he was a great artist. I would say he was an innovative artist. He did stuff that was different than everybody else had done before.
Yeah, it was a unique style.
It was a unique style. It wasn't like to me, still, I look at his anatomy and I'm like, God, dude, what the hell are you doing here? It's just it always shocks me like how bad his anatomy is.
And but that Spider-Man #1 cover is so iconic.
Yeah.
Where like everything's been drawn after it, like Spawn stands just like in that same pose, or Venom is going to stand in that pose.
That to me is like the X-Men #1 cover and the Spider-Man #1 cover were just kind of iconic for that time.
Great 90s stuff. Yeah. But the problem with McFarlane is like, so he does Spider-Man. He doesn't like what I think is McElhaney was writing for him for a while, and he said he wasn't liking the scripts that he was getting. So they said, "Well, fine, here, take Spider-Man." He went from Amazing to just the regular Spider-Man title. I guess he was the first to do it, and he starts writing. Well, his writing's not that much better, and so I just kind of wonder if his movies are gonna, fare the same way. I read the most recent thing I read from him was Batman Spawn. I guess this is what he considered the second volume, or the second, not really the second issue, because there were like 3 issues the first time.
Kind of like a sequel, I guess.
Yeah, it was god awful. It was really just pretty terrible.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. It's funny that like I know he was really trying to get Jamie Foxx for Spawn.
Yes,
but was Michael Jai White? He could probably still do it. Honestly, he still looks good.
I like Michael Jai White. He is so funny.
Yeah, he's good. I love him.
He's hilarious.
He was, in Arrow, he was Bronze Tiger recently. He still looks good.
Yeah. I just don't want them to bring John Leguizamo back. Don't do that.
Oh, it's clown. Nah. He needs to be away.
Hey, John, can I be the violator, John? I hate that guy. All right, let's move on to the next topic here. Let's see.
The Spectre's bulge.
His
bulge of vengeance.
They should have done 2 Spectres. They should have done one regular and then one the Alfred Spectre. There you go.
They should have done the freaking former Gotham police person. Guy I'm a fan of so much. I forget the name of. I'm glad I brought this up. Wasting time. Okay.
I know, and I'm right here with you because I know it's not Crispus Allen.
Crispus Allen. That's what it was.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you pulled it out of the fire. You did it quick enough. You pulled it out.
Okay. Quick recovery. All right. Now let's never speak of it again and move on quickly.
Jon Bernthal was interviewed by Collider, and they asked him to talk about Frank Castle and his Punisher work. Apparently, he's going to be returning to the Daredevil series in the new Born Again. So I recently heard that they're basically upturning the apple cart and they are scrapping what the original people. That's all done. That's all gone.
Yeah, I've heard
We get
also they're going to bring back Foggy and
Foggy and Karen.
Yeah, good.
So, you know, I'm a little bit trepidatious just because the person that they got to write this, if I'm not mistaken, was the gentleman who worked the director or is it the writer? I don't know which one. He worked on the Punisher series, and I'm like, ooh,
The series,
big,
like the
you know when he got
series?
his own spin-off series? Yes, the guy who did that. I'm like, oh, yeah, oof, that's bad. That's real bad because neither one of those were nearly as good as the Daredevil series. The only problem I had with the Daredevil series is once it got past 2, the guy who was writing got TDS, and he just went off the reservation, and I don't know what his problem was. He just, I don't know. Anyways, but in this interview, he talks about the spinoff, and then he says that the character here, I'll just read what he says. I think there's a reason why the character has resonated as deeply and as strongly as it has. In the hearts and minds of comic fans and the first responders and people in the military and people all over the globe, I think that there's a little bit of Frank in everybody. He exists very strongly inside me, and I care about the character deeply. I know that it's absolutely essential that if we do it right, and we have a real sacred integrity to the source material and to what is at the core of Frank. I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that if and when we do it right. So I don't know if this, like, he's speaking about the Punisher specifically. So I don't know if he's talking about like another season, like the 3rd season to the Netflix edition of Punisher, or if he's just talking the Punisher in general. I don't know.
Yeah, like maybe he
I'm pretty sure they're probably all in pre-production right now with Daredevil. I'm sure it's not anywhere near like they filmed anything, because if you have to, I'm just guessing, if you have to stop a show and say, okay, you're all fired, let's turn this back around.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that they haven't done anything just yet. So
no, probably not.
The thing that sticks out to me in this, and first of all, like you could be very cynical and say an actor wants work. That's not news, right? But he does, at least I think, have authentic enthusiasm about playing this role. And if you've listened to him in interviews, he can be kind of an intense guy, but I think he's serious, right? And I think he does respect the work and the craft and all that business. But what sticks out to me is doing it right. Now I know you could say that regardless, but I don't know if it's just because of my personal bias of not being crazy about the Netflix show. I wonder if that means, hey, we just want to do it right in general, or is there a twinge of kind of admitting that the show wasn't the greatest and he'd like another crack at it?
Maybe.
I like to think that, but
he has a lot more pull now. He has a lot more cachet as because when he did Punisher, it's not that he wasn't super popular or anything. He was well known. It's just that he might not have had the sway with Netflix that he does now. He might be able to make a lot of demands on the show to get it right. And but I do question how much of a fan of the Punisher he actually is, because if you were to tell me this was Ryan Reynolds, as much as I don't like Ryan Reynolds, I do believe that he likes Deadpool. I do believe he likes that character and that he has the best intentions for that character. So when I hear people say this, like, man, I want to do what's right for the character, we want to stay true to the source material. Source material do you actually know? And
it does feel like a canned response. And like I'm kind of hoping he does really like playing this role, and it's like, and like, what else has a guy got to do to convince us, the fans? But I think back to Tom Jane going out of his way to make some type of
the fan film,
like this, like short, and I'm like, okay, he wouldn't just do that, you know what I mean, unless he really wanted to get something going, because he could have just said, hey, that didn't work out, I'll go being the next Mutant Chronicles movie or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? But,
yeah. No, he went out of his way to make something else because he was a fan, like of the character.
And so you kind of hope it's going to be better, but you know, Ty, you touched on something there about like having to turn the ship around and kind of restart things. And I don't want to get into Echo too early, but man, hearing the news that used to be 8 episodes shaved down to 5, and there's a lot of like every time you hear like a Marvel news, there's more reshoots happen today, and I'm like, what is happening? It seems like I'm like I'm almost to the point like, even though it's probably going to suck, just stick to whatever you were going to do, because the result is this disjointed mess that kind of, the only time I've seen that truly work, I say work in quotations, only because I, despite myself, enjoyed it immensely. It was how I knew Rogue One was a deeply flawed movie and had a lot of reshooting, a lot of rewriting done. And you can tell watching the film, like the first half of the movie feels like a different movie. I found myself still really liking that movie. I'm like, so I guess it can be done, but I haven't seen it a whole lot, and not from Marvel. So I'm just like kind of holding out hope. And also, I have another question regarding the Netflix things. They're saying that that's included on Disney Plus, and that's like part of the canon. So I don't know, like, I think we discussed this already, but I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it, where it's like, so Jessica Jones happened, Luke Cage happened, Iron Fist happened. And I know we talked about this last week, but I'm thinking like, how much are they going to commit to that? Because a lot of stuff with him.
Well,
what's fun is
I was thinking about that too, because like I read that today also, that like all those things are now canon. But didn't they even in the show like say, oh, the crazy stuff that went on in New York a few years ago? And like,
yes,
I remember
see a lot of
Daredevil
people pointed to
season
that
1
at the beginning.
Yeah, but then
at the beginning they said, how can it not be canon? Whenever they specifically mention the Avengers,
New York,
I feel like if I remember correctly, and I may not be right about this, but I remember at the beginning they're going out of their way to say, yes, it's all part of the same thing. And I want to say somewhere along the way, somebody said it wasn't anymore, and they just kind of did whatever. I don't think anything truly contradicts anything
I think
else.
everything is in flux at Marvel right now. After the Phase 4, now everything is like, whatever the hell spaghetti sticks to the wall, they are gonna try to use at this point. Because if you look at their track record and you see the failure after failure, how do you screw up a Secret Invasion? That sounds like such a cool idea on so many levels. It's a spy thriller, lots of like crazy, who like, is this guy is he a Skrull? Is he a Skrull? All this cool stuff. You had the iffy, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was just like there. It was like, I see what you're trying to do, but it's not quite what I. And then you have what's the other one? WandaVision,
which much of which I enjoyed. I just feel like it went on too long. I feel like they could have shaved at least 3 episodes from that.
Yeah, I think they really need to condense stuff. I haven't yet seen Hawkeye, which now after watching Echo, it all
and that's
Hawkeye.
And that's one thing I was gonna like mention to you was like, if that whole first part of the first episode of Echo is just like a recap of Hawkeye, things that happened in Hawkeye. So if you didn't watch Hawkeye, you're a little behind the curve there. So, but I don't want to get it too much.
Well, they recap pretty hard, but anyways,
they recap, but it's like you're just missing a whole storyline of Echo and Kingpin, and but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, so I am cautiously optimistic, very cautiously optimistic. I heard Chris talk about this recently, where he said basically he was talking about Daredevil. I think it was yesterday or today. He did a tweet and he said, "You know what? Just screw it. Get rid of all of it. I don't care that they're bringing Foggy, and I don't care that they're bringing Sharon back. Just if Echo is the best that y'all got, then just throw it away, because y'all are never going to do this right." And I I kind of agree with him. I kind of like I want to see, but I am.
It's hard not
little
to
bit-
come to that point where you're like,
Yeah, especially
no.
with the people that are just failing upward constantly in this game. If you can tell me that you made Punisher season 1 and 2, and then you failed upward to Daredevil, I'm like, how did you do that? I
Well,
would rather bring the
will say-
TDS guy back because he actually wrote some competent stories that I actually like to watch.
And well, I will say that at least whatever this Marvel Spotlight is supposed to be, I guess if you're going to do Punisher, it would have to be something like this. But even then, I'm just afraid, like, okay, so he might actually use guns, he might actually kill people, but I'm also afraid that it's going to be boring as all get out. Like the Netflix show, I mean, that was one of the main gripes I had. I'm like, good grief, man, this is such a tedious. And I don't know. I found that maybe there's some history in the comics. I don't know, but I found him and Karen Page having such a close relationship odd. So I don't remember a whole lot of that in the comic.
Oh
Not
my
that
god, he was like that was like your love of his life.
and like
No,
comics
no,
aren't scripture.
for
So
Punisher.
for the Punisher,
Oh, Punisher. Oh, sorry, I thought you were
not
talking about Daredevil.
not Daredevil. I'm talking about Frank Castle and Karen Page. I felt
Yeah.
like that was just kind of weird. And
Yeah.
I'm like, is that a thing? I don't
I don't think
remember.
so.
I mean, comics are not scripture, so you don't have to do that. But I'm like, I don't know. It just felt weird.
That was
Comics
something
should be
they did for the
They should be.
Defenders storyline. they combined. You know, there was so many crossovers. Like Rosario Dawson popped up in everything just because they were like,
Yeah.
we gotta make this feel like you're in the same neighborhood. You're all in Hell's Kitchen, but I don't know. I'm always probably the most optimistic one, even when I shouldn't be. But I like Shane Bernthal, and I like him as the Punisher. And I think
he is forever.
Shane Bodz.
Shane. He's Shane forever. Jon Bernthal. Sorry. No, but he's out there practicing with Terran Tactical and
he's
stuff
practicing.
like that.
He's practicing hitting on underage ladies at Terran Tactical.
That's what you do there, and so that's Punisher for
He's
it.
busy. No. Hey, maybe because he is weirdly related to Kurt Angle, the wrestler, and Olympic gold medalist. Maybe Kurt Angle will appear in an episode of the.
He'll be the Russian.
Is he
be the
really,
Russian guy?
Is he really related to him?
Yeah, his Jon Bernthal married the niece of Kurt Angle or something, or cousin, or not daughter, but or maybe sister. But yeah, so he's randomly related to Kurt Angle, which is so hilarious. So
that's funny.
Maybe he'll show up.
I just wonder. Okay, so if they do the Russian this time, will they bring him back later in the series with the big boobs like he had?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I wonder if they'll do that.
Well, they had Kevin Nash, and they can have Kurt Angle. A wrestler will play the Russian. That's all I can tell you.
That's all you really need.
I don't know the guy for that.
I kind of feel like if they did the Punisher in the way that they're doing Reacher right now, Reacher's a really good show, and it's really popular, and it's about just a guy beating the crap out of people. I think if they just kind of let Punisher punish people, then I think they'll be fine.
So that interesting point. This is kind of related. I don't want to get on too sidetracked here, but I haven't watched all of season 2, but I do really enjoy Reacher. And I even like the Tom Cruise movies. They weren't bad, but the new series is really good. And Reacher isn't completely flawless. He's not a perfect being, but he is extremely competent, right? He is just incredibly strong, and he's incredibly smart, and he's usually outsmarts and he beat up anyone, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking on the surface, you could say I just think about what are the things we don't like about certain movies, Rey in the new Star Wars movies, right? She doesn't really need training. She's already great at everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm also if you only looked at the surface, you could try to make the same gripe about Reacher. I'm like, well, Reacher doesn't need to do anything. He's already there. But but I feel like Reacher does get he gets beat up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? He gets, and so I think, and I was thinking, I'm like, if they gender swapped Reacher is essentially the same thing. I don't think I feel like they wouldn't allow female Reacher to.
No, they would never let her have any kind of.
I kind of feel like that. I didn't want to go off on a
That's the
tangent,
problem.
but just you
And you know
mentioned
what?
Reacher.
That
And
may
I
be
just-
you may be onto something there, because maybe that's just what we're lacking nowadays. Is like because Reacher is pretty good at everything, and we don't have a lot of characters that come out nowadays and aren't just like, I need to be able to have someone save me constantly. No, he's a good character. He's a character that's competent.
Yeah.
And he's not getting rescued constantly. So maybe that's why the show's doing so well, is because, like, for once you're seeing a character and you're like,
Yeah,
I believe that you are what you can do.
And when it's
It's
time
believable.
for him to get the crap beat out of him at death's door, that will happen. You know what I mean? And he
Yeah.
will have things happen to him. But I'm like,
Mhm.
but yeah, I remember, like, this is one of the reasons why we like Batman and things like that, or
Yeah.
just like a lot of action heroes of the past. They were just like, it's something kind of, I don't know what the word, not satisfying, I don't know, that sounds weird, but it's something really enjoyable about watching an extremely competent character like out do smart things, and but in like a clever way, not just like things magically, not like they have like luck altering powers, like long shotters to someone, where they can like, they have like, oh, things just happen to bend to my will, but like they figure it out, and they aren't dumb,
and that's kind of
that's
something
all
that,
of Reacher.
And that's something that
basically,
you could strive for, that you could be, like you could, if you trained hard enough, you could be Batman, or if you,
or the
and that's what
Punisher in this
exactly, and that's what Punisher is like, he's a normal guy going up against like super metas and stuff like that, but still holding his own because he trains and he has that determination, and he's not perfect, but like,
that's why we love it.
He's believable. Like, it's a believable thing. He's not like a Mary Jane character where it's like,
or Mary Sue,
or Mary Sue,
or Mary Jane Watson. I don't know.
Mary Jane Watson.
Maybe the Zendaya version. I don't know, but the Michelle Wood Jones or whatever her name is, so stupid. But anyway, I think that's a big problem. It's like, we have these like, these incredible like male characters who are so great, but I'm also like, you can make that the female version, and they are not going to be allowed to have any like problems.
No, they can't have like they can't even have like fear. It's just like it means everything washes away.
To me, that feels like weirdly kind of like accidentally sexist, where it's like, no, you aren't allowed to have range. You aren't allowed to do anything else. You have to be this one way. And I'm like, isn't that kind of the problem to begin with? Forcing people just to be one way? Like, no, you only have to do this one thing. I don't know, man.
Well, speaking of having no range and no weaknesses, apparently, let's move on to the next topic, which is the Echo Season 1. Premiere of the Marvel Spotlight. Okay, so this show, I don't know what you guys thought. I know, first of all, I'm the only one that watched the whole thing through. I was the only one that had the fortitude.
Yeah, I got 3 episodes in, but then I really started planning my Echo tattoo, so I didn't have a lot of time to finish it. So
this show, the first episode is okay. I mean, I have a little bit of a problem believing that this version of Echo could take on Daredevil. The Echo from the comics is a svelte dancer, light on her feet. I guess they're calling it like photo reflexive, and they kind of just went the total opposite direction of that. I mean, she had a moment in the show, especially at the beginning, when they're going through and they're basically saying like, okay, here's how she comes to be in the employ of the Kingpin. She parents, her mother is killed in a car accident. She loses her leg in that same car accident. She then goes with her dad to New York, and then in New York, he works for the Kingpin. And after the snap, Hawkeye shows up, and Hawkeye takes out one of Kingpin's places of business, and her dad happens to be there, and he gets killed. That's pretty different from the comics. It's not a hero that kills him. I believe in the comics it's actually Kingpin that does the deed, because he no longer is using this guy, and he says, "Please take care of my daughter." But in this, Kingpin is, I guess, friends enough with the guy, at least we think he is, to take care of his daughter. And then they go on, and they have she actually becomes his hitman, which I have the weirdest. It's just so weird. Like, of all things that you're going to do, you're going to take a girl who is not only deaf, but she's an amputee, to make her your enforcer. I don't think you're going to get I think you're going to get laughs, and you're not going to get a whole lot of, like, like the proverbial ping down your leg. Oh yes, I'll pay you. That you're not going to get a whole lot of that. I thought that was such I don't know why they had to go with like that. She's also an amputee.
It's because I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming they wanted like at least a deaf actress, and then they just scoured the earth trying to find one, right? And they found one. Like, well, she's also mute, I think. I don't know what the deal is, but she also happens to be missing a leg.
She can make noises. I heard her in the later episodes when she got hurt. She would make a squeak every once in a while, and she can. It was kind of like that like quasi-sexual noise women make when they get hurt. She did that kind of,
I'm assuming like they happen to find this one lady, and she's like, well, she's also missing a leg. I'm like, well, guys, we're at the 11th hour. We got to take what we can get. We start shooting tomorrow, so maybe.
I think this was all because this just screams to me of like DEI at its like height.
But you know what? What's funny is,
again, I'm going to do this before we do all the rest of this reviews that we're doing today. I told myself not to forget this. We're going to do it. We're going to be talking about the entire show.
Okay.
That was for my wife, by the way. She's like, spoiler alert. Anyways.
Spoiler alert.
Anyway.
Well, the thing that bothers me about this is like, she is pretty good on her feet. You probably didn't even need to throw out like her foot. That she was an amputee. Like, they could have probably filmed it, and you would never have known. Like, they just kind of decided to throw that in for more diversity.
Yeah, but Bodz, she moves really slow. Like, watching her in so she goes and she does the first job, and that's the first time she encounters Daredevil, and he gets into fight, and she fights him to a standstill. That first battle with him, first and last battle, by the way, is so like everything is telegraphed and slow. When you watch that in slow motion, it is awful.
But do you know that Daredevil's blind? He's having to do that blind.
And that's the thing too. That's what gets me. You did not need an actress that was deaf to play this part. It had nothing to do with she. First of all, you needed a girl that could act. This girl could not act. She could not emote to save her life. She had this perpetual. You know how they had the resting bitch face?
Yeah.
This girl has every face is that face. And she the thing that's bad about Echo is she enforces a stereotype that I've had for a long time. I used to work at a college, and they had an ASL program there. So every once in a while I would get to communicate with a deaf person. They are some of the biggest jerks that you have ever met in your life. They are always scowling. They're always upset. It's just, I don't understand why everyone that I met was just a hateful person. And then when I'm watching this, I was like, well, this is correct. This is
it's accurate.
I just want to apologize to all the deaf people listening to this.
Hey,
Oh
I'm
wait,
just
they're not
telling
going
you
to be.
what
They're not going to be.
I'm telling you what I actually experienced in life. The deaf community, for the most part that I've met, have been very rude people, and I don't understand why. I want to help you, but they were like, oh, just always like just mad. And that's the way this girl felt. She was rude to everybody on this show. She was only nice to you if I say nice. She only communicated with you if she could actually get something through you. She talks to her cousin. What was his name? Was it
Biscuits?
Biscuits. She talks to Biscuits, and he is he's a likable character. Like Biscuits, I was like, I like Biscuits. He's one of the first characters I've met on the show that I actually like. And she cannot be any more rude to this poor guy. He just wants to help her. He just wants to be her friend. And she is mean to him the whole time. She's mean to her uncle that he's like, yeah, I'll fix your, is it her uncle or is her grandpa? I can't remember. He's going to fix her leg.
Graham Greene.
Rude to him. She's rude to her uncle that owns the skate shop. She's rude to everybody.
The uncle's like, I don't want you bringing trouble to our town. And she brings trouble to their town.
Yeah.
And
she endangers her family.
They did it because this is Echo's character, which in the comic book, Echo's character is a fun-loving person, as far as I remember. She was smiling and laughing all the time whenever she was hanging out with Matt. But in here, she's just like I said, resting bitch face all the time. And I don't know if that's a lack of range or if that's how they wrote the character, but my spider sense tells me that's a lack of range.
Yeah.
Well, so I admit I of course did not watch. I didn't watch. I don't think I even got through the first episode, but that was more due to like a lack of time. But I knew I wasn't going to make it to the deadline, and so I cheated and watched Nerdrotic's review and Reaper's review of the series. And man, I think they're onto something when they say that there's a reason they dropped all 5 episodes at once and not like a weekly streaming thing schedule where it's like because every week would have been the roasting would have been nonstop.
That was like everything else I think was like that, where it was like once a week it'd come out.
Yeah.
So you'd have to wait. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Maybe it's a spotlight thing, but I have a feeling the show that was going to be even longer got cut down to 5 episodes and they just dropped them all at once. I'm thinking they just got rid of it. It's like, they just had to just jettison this turd onto the world and so they can move on. But so I do have the cliff notes of what did take place. And the fight scene, I remember watching it. I'd already read about how it was terrible. And I'm like, well, I've definitely seen worse, but I've definitely seen better with Charlie Cox. And I could kind of tell he was just going really slow on account of her. And like, there's this one scene where she sort of does this slow motion kick. I'm like, was that on purpose? Because that they showed it again at one point. She does like this pause and then she kicks again. I'm like, is that they showed it again? Something they were proud of that, I guess. I'm like, and so like within universe, in the context of the scene, you immediately understand Matt Murdock's one of like the best fighters there is, right? And you see her, she's like, this is my first time out. And I'm like, we have nothing really to, establish why she would be able to go toe to toe unless Matt Murdock is just deciding to go easy on her because he can kind of tell she's disabled.
Remember in Hawkeye, he had a cold that day?
So,
no, that wasn't in Hawkeye though.
But and also she murders someone, has a gun, and Daredevil's like, I have better things to do. Bye.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, she never. And I'm like just going through, even if I remove all the commentary and the editorials of the YouTubers, even though they were hilarious, but even if I just look at the facts, like what this show actually was, I'm like, yeah, they're right. She does nothing to. I don't think she grows any. I don't think she gets I don't think she learns a lesson. I don't know if she goes through any type of character arc whatsoever.
Her powers are so strange. They apparently it was said at one point by I guess the director that her powers were lame, And
which
I'm like,
I just
yeah, they're derivative. I wouldn't call them lame. I mean, I don't think Taskmaster's powers are lame.
I like
Yeah,
Taskmaster if they would have done his powers like that, and it would have been
Yeah, I just find
Taskmaster.
it. Her powers are whatever the story requires for them to be at the time, which that is what I consider to be lame. If you what does she do in the show? So she has the ability to echo the experiences, or I guess the abilities of her ancestors. So I guess her
And
first
wait,
one.
time out. Were her ancestors alien? I didn't get that. Like what?
Yeah, I didn't quite
magical
understand that either. That was
They
never in the
were
comics.
Indian Wakandans. That's kind of what they were.
There you go. Or like I guess Remender did one time that is like Techno Apaches. I can't remember what he called them in his book. I think his was Techno Apaches. I don't know what that was. What I did think is the girl that so you know how they come out of the ground and then their little their skin flakes off and they become they become natives, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that first girl. I'm like, that girl right there. That first girl we saw, that looks more like Echo.
And she's a big actress. That was the one who was from Dexter Bloodlines. That was the girlfriend of Dexter in or New Blood.
Yeah.
Dexter,
in the new series, I never saw that series. Was it good? I've never seen it.
She probably auditioned. They're like, we really like you, but we aren't allowed to cast a person.
Sorry,
you need some bulletproof armor here when it comes to later when people criticize how bad this show is. We need some bulletproof armor so that if you say anything bad about this community, we will be able to call you racist or any kind of ist that we feel like.
Yeah.
That is why that is my sense of why they picked this show, because they wanted some bulletproof DEI stuff that they could say, oh, the fans are just terrible misogynists and racist and all kinds of ists. And the problem is
that's why they do their stunt casting the way that they do it.
Yeah. The problem is that they don't go, hey, it's an actor. Charlie Cox isn't blind. He doesn't have to be blind to play a blind person.
Yeah.
He can play a blind person. He can research the role. He did a good job. This girl didn't do a good job. She was one note. She was always mad. She was always a jerk to everybody. She was just boring. She couldn't really emote to save her life. Even when her dad died, I was like, oh, I'm not buying this. I'm not really feeling that you're really sad about this.
Even the actors who play the young Echo, I mean, like, first of all, you have a shard of glass, and I forget who pointed this out, like when the wind away, I don't know, but either way, you have a shard of glass, like sticking in you, stabbing you. You look over, your mom is like dead, right? You have this like pretty devastating car wreck, and like the poor girl, I'm sure she is directed just to like be stoic, you know what I mean? Just, don't act like this is a minor inconvenience to you,
because you're a badass.
Yeah, and it's just very towards the finale of like the season, I don't think I even finished Ms. Marvel, but where the family started getting powers and stuff, I'm like, this really feels like a Ms. Marvel thing. I feel like this happened in Ms. Marvel, but I can't say for sure. And I will say that, you know, if you want to say like we want it to be different from Taskmaster, fine, I guess, but don't just have the director say like, well, that source material, the thing that you like, and the reason there's even a show to begin with, well, that's stupid. Not a great way to start. You aren't getting off on the right foot, not feet, but foot. And
that's the thing, not with just this. It's like other things too. Like obviously, like I go back to the Witcher show a lot because like they pretty much have said that they don't like the source material, or you know, and I'm like, this is why you have a job.
Yeah, it's like
just you do your job.
A job that I don't even know how you got, because apparently you
hate it so much. So
yeah, well, it's because they wanted to be coming up with their own stuff, so they get they're not talented enough to do that, so that they give them these kind of projects, and this is where they have to hang their hat, and they have to be like, well, I do this as a part-time gig, but what I'm really doing on the side is this other biopic or whatever they want to do, whatever they want to do in the future. Yeah,
but the thing is, like, you know what's funny is like even echoing ancestors of the past, their powers. I'm like, that by itself could have been cool. You know what I mean? That actually could have been kind of cool. I didn't understand why they all had to be female. Like, I didn't understand
Yeah,
why
why didn't she have a
exactly.
male ancestor that had this power? Well, I guess it was only ran through the female line, and
For some,
that was
which by the way, we mentioned Supergirl earlier. That I believe, if you watch the CW Supergirl show, or used to be CBS, whatever, but I believe the character of Dreamer had something very similar.
Oh yeah, she could. Yeah, her ancestor in the future, the one going to be in the Legion of Superheroes, like
Yeah,
that was.
yeah, and like I
Yeah.
believe she had something very similar. So not only is it insulting to the source material, you could have made changes. Changes happen all the time, which is like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, whatever, but don't just outright say it's stupid.
It's stupid.
Just,
well,
and lame, you know.
I don't know if you're slightly younger than us, John, but I know Ty remembers this. Do you remember Braveheart, Ty?
yes.
And he could channel like animals, like okay,
Braveheart
cool.
was awesome. That was
he was in
I loved it. I loved his horse 30-30.
Do you mean are you thinking of Brave Star?
Brave Star,
Brave
that's
Star,
what it's called. Brave Star. Yeah,
what
yeah.
did I say?
I thought the point you were making is that, like, well, Mel Gibson made up a bunch of stuff about William Wallace that didn't happen. We all loved it.
No,
which is true.
I've been just saying this is going to be my new thing. My Middle-Aged Mutant ability is going to be just like saying the wrong things. Like it's Shane Bernthal now, and
It's
just saying like wrong actors and wrong characters' names. But Brave Star, he could channel like animals, like like the
he could like
of a cheetah or strength of a bear.
That was a cool power too.
That was a cool power. They could have probably made her power cool like that if they were doing something, but don't go and say that willpower's stupid. So.
But if you bring up these powers, it's like, okay, so maybe you weren't aware of them before, but every moment from this point on, if something comes up or you could have used your healing powers or something, and you don't, it's going to look really stupid and weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like if it's like if Spider-Man doesn't sense danger or something, it's like, well, you have spider sense.
Yeah, why didn't
you at least feel something? You know, so now it's like, if I know you have healing powers, I'm like, I just hang now, Echo, Maya, can you do something about this? You know, like something.
You know, they could have just gone and said, instead of saying her powers are stupid, saying that she's able to mimic powers of her ancestors, and you kind of are still doing what her powers are.
Because I would have been on board with that change. You know what I mean? I was like, except that all happened to be women. I'm like, well, I think that's
it could have been anybody. Yeah,
it could have been any of her ancestors.
Why?
Yeah.
If you give me a reason other than just because, you know what I mean?
Because that would have been kind of like a. I mean, it's like almost like I kind of see what they're trying to do, but it's just like they could have done more with it, you know.
Or they could have stuck closer to her story arc in the comic. It seems like all of the stuff that happened kind of in the comic happened before this show even started. This is like more of like would be an ongoing series. We've already passed parts of a whole, which is
And what's weird also is like at this time in the actual comics, I was actually buying New Avengers. It was my floppy I'd pick up every week. She was Ronin before Clint Barton was. Like she actually was Ronin first.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Kind of opposite in MCU. So,
is there? So talking about reasons for power, like like if you say Clint Barton is just exceptionally skilled with a bow and arrow, like he trained like a long time, like okay. And if you just say like you have photoreflexive whatever, you're just born with it. I can believe that in the Marvel universe, especially since the Taskmasters are already around. But I kind of need a little more. You know what? Never mind a reason. Just have something interesting happen. Because the thing is, the thing that really made me go, I don't know if I ever will spend time watching the series to be is when, because first of all, Kingpin gets shot point blank in the face. His eyes a little hurt.
Well, I think what they were trying to do there is, I believe it was some point that Echo, I don't know if this happened towards the end of Parts of a Whole, but she does blind him at one point. So I think that's kind of what they were going for. But I think they
it
also
seemed
wanted
like
a cliffhanger ending where like she shot him. Did he kill him? And I was like, it's Vincent D'Onofrio. They're not going to kill him. He's got if you kill the Kingpin and have it be Echo that did it would be so like kind of sad.
It's lame.
Yeah.
It would be sad. But the thing is, at the very end, she gets powers to like remove his mental childhood trauma, and he cries. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is the writer's self-insert fantasy. You know,
I can heal the hateful people of the world if I just, if I just try hard enough, I can make them understand and think exactly as I do. I'm like, oh yeah,
And like, and you have the Kingpin like, oh, what have I done in all this
yeah,
business? Like, oh, he's having this mental breakthrough in therapy, and I'm like, okay, first of all, that's one of her many powers, I guess. And
Mhm.
as soon as I saw that, I'm like, it's not that you bitchified the Kingpin, but it's just like this super obvious, I guess, I don't even say like feminist, like fantasy or something, but it feels like if you hate men, this is you're presenting Kingpin as like all men, and this is what you would like to do. And I'm
Mhm.
like, it just seems so. I mean, just beyond cringe. Just beyond cringe.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. It's not for me. This show was not for me. But we're at an hour now, guys. So I'm gonna move us on to the next topic. Before I go, I'll say this was a show, and of all the shows it exists, I mean that's about all I can say for it. You are more than happy. You can watch this if you want to. I do not recommend this show. It's boring. It's tedious. Uh, it's full of DEI stuff. It's just every little checklist thing that they could come up with. It's not original. They they even shit on the character that I don't even really like, and I'm upset about it because they didn't do a good job of representing that character that I don't like. So I would just say this is a skip for me. So not a. I mean, I already saw it, so it could be a skip for you.
One thing I just wanted to bring up quickly here is like we keep on hearing about how Marvel shows in particular have like the ratings just keep getting lower and lower, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had like this thought, like, what if it turned out the only people watching this stuff were YouTubers who like bash it,
Yeah,
and it was like this
yeah,
weird cyclical symbiotic relationship where the audience is just the YouTubers that shit on it, and they're
yeah.
like, well, this market is actually watching it, so we and so I guess as we make more for them. And so I was like,
Well, apathy is the best way to if you want to get rid of stuff like this that's terrible, apathy is the best way to do it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you want to skip it so none of this stuff ever comes out again because it's terrible, I'm more than happy to blessing on that. All right. Since we're at an hour, I'm probably gonna move us on to the next topic. Um, you know what? Let's just kind of run through these really quickly. Here's the first one. Okay, so Zorro, Man of the Dead. This book just came out, I think. Oh, it came out last week, and it's Sean Gordon Murphy written and drawn by,
Hmm.
written and drawn by Sean Gordon Murphy, and it follows a girl named Rosa. She is the main character. We talked about this a long time ago. This was the book that Sean Gordon Murphy was doing a Kickstarter for, and then at the last minute, we all found out that it's not actually about Zorro itself. It's about his sister. Rosa Head just happens to be a lesbian. Those are his words. And the book is about a guy. So you have their father. His name is Antonio. He is killed by the main bad guy in the story called El Rojo, and that is what ends up splitting up the two siblings, Rosa and her brother Diego. They look up to their father, but he is killed by this El Rojo character, and Diego gets taken away with his father's fencing coach, whose name is what's his name again? I think it was Alejandro. Yeah, he was his fencing coach takes him away to go live in basically what amounts to a castle in this town they live in called Vega. And the daughter Rosa, she goes and lives her life separately from him, and she ends up working for the guy who killed her father. and she becomes a wheelman, and they want her to do this. They want her to drive this guy named Trejo, which looks exactly like Danny Trejo, this like affluent part of the city of Vega, to talk to Alejandro, who was the guy who in the beginning, who was the fencing coach, to kind of rough him up, because what they're trying to do is they have all these like drug tunnels that the DEA keeps, they keep finding and destroying, so they can't run their drugs there. So they want to run drugs into this church. Well, this gentleman Alejandro is like, no, you're not doing that. Well, he gets killed, and he's at the time he gets killed, he had, for years he had been training the son Diego to be a fencer as well, and he'd lived there, and he had never talked since the day of his father's death. Well, the day that Alejandro gets killed, the day that Alejandro's, we just lost Snow Age. Sorry, 1 second, we'll bring him back.
Don't worry, everyone. I'm back.
I got him. So we lost. So Alejandro's killed. He gives his sword to Diego, and he tells Diego, "This is the sword of Zorro. I need you to protect it." And so Diego goes, and he proceeds to kill all the people that were sent there to assassinate this Alejandro guy, and he takes on the persona of Zorro, and he hasn't talked for several years, but he starts to talk, and all of a sudden it's like, well, the people of Vega will be safer once again, and he's got like this like kind of like pulp hero attitude now. And I did think that was kind of cool, that like that's what brought it out in him. He'd been idolizing Zorro for years, and now that he's avenged one of his father. Well, he hasn't avenged his father yet, because he hasn't killed like the main bad guy, but he ends up taking up the Zorro mantle, and that's kind of where the book ends. And I thought it is exactly what what Sean Gordon Murphy described it as. He is kind of like a delusional Zorro. Zorro may or may not exist in here. He's kind of like a legend to the people in this comic, and he takes up the mantle and just goes like whole hog, and he just becomes Zorro. And the next issue is, I guess, is where they're going to actually go and try to, I guess, begin avenging their father and their fallen comrade Alejandro. The artwork is excellent as always. Sean Gordon Murphy always does a good job. I don't like that we get this subversion of like it's the Zorro comic, but we get the kind of like we get the Raiden treatment, where the actual main character is this person. The
bait and switch the bait and switch is nothing new, but it's so annoying now that it happens so much.
Yeah, and everybody does it. So I just don't really understand the appeal of that. It's just like, God, let's play a Solid Snake. That's usually
yeah.
But I give this like a soft recommend. It is one of those books that like if you like good artwork and serviceable story, I'd say go ahead with this. Again, this is just the first issue. It's almost like an origin story, and you know how I feel about origin stories. They're not the greatest, but it's not as bad as it could have been. But for $20 for the foil cover, I don't know if y'all can see this. It is pretty steep. I think the other covers are not nearly as expensive. Yeah, $4.99 for the regular edition.
The other one is like supposed to be a Batman cover.
This one right here, I believe that's the homage to the old Batman issue 2. It was issue 1 that was reprinted. I believe that's what that is. And it has the DC like version of Massive Press or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It comes in several different covers. I mean, you have your pick, your Joe Quesada, I think Rafael Albuquerque, and many, many more if you want to check this out. But again, know that Zorro is not the main character in really the first issue. I mean, if you get this digitally, I think you'd probably feel better about it, because it's just stuff happens, but it's not like the best book. It wasn't as exciting as Ultimate Spider-Man #1 was to me, but to each their own. So go ahead and check it out if you like. Let's move on to the next topic. I'm only moving fast through these because we have we have to get to the main event, which is. Do I not have a graphic for this? We have to get to the main event, which is the what is it called? Daredevil, Guardian Devil.
Oh yeah.
So here,
So these things.
let me just skip over to this next one, then I'll just go to Cobra Commander here. Okay, so Cobra Commander #1 came out today, and it's an origin story. So you know how I feel about origin stories. It's done again by Skybound. It's still part of the Energon universe, but it's quite a bit bloodier. It does. Do y'all remember in the old days whenever they did show like I guess they showed Cobra Commander without his mask off, and he's kind of like a hideous. If I'm right, he's kind of like a really gross organic. Like he kind of reminded me like
he was like a snake person, right?
Kind of a little bit, yeah. They show he lives in this kind of like world, kind of like the Echo under the under the earth kind of space. That's where he comes from, and apparently he was a scientist there, and he was working on something that the populace didn't really agree with, and so they ended up revolting against them, the scientists, and he ends up throwing a bomb into the group of protesters, or I guess revolutionaries, and he kills a ton of them, and he actually injures himself pretty badly, and he gets healed up, and then the story moves on where you see he actually is kind of he's becomes like a banished member of his society, and towards the end of the story, it goes on to show that he's actually part of the reason why he got in trouble in the first place is because he was experimenting with Transformer technology. Apparently, he got a hold of Megatron, and he was developing technologies and stuff using, I guess, what he reverse engineered from the Decepticons, and he's basically. He says that when he gets caught and he gets taken to his tribunal where he's going to actually be killed, he actually kills all of his captors, and he says to his leader, he's like, "I'm going to I have allegiance to you. Let me go and do what I need to do." And I'm guessing he means take over the world or whatever. But he goes, and the next issue looks like he's shown up to actually find the Dreadnoks for some reason. I didn't quite understand why you would go looking for the Dreadnoks. Next thing, I would think that you would do, I don't know, something else.
Find Destro.
Destro was actually in the Duke comic. They showed him. He runs this company called Mars, and I guess it's like a front.
Mars was actually in the cartoon.
See, I didn't remember that was part of his.
I remember it was like the toys. I remember it had like Mars when he was gold.
Yeah,
when he was gold. Yeah, now he's been silver for quite a long time. Yeah, I guess as a way to repay his I guess it's like his leader or whatever. He goes and he says he's gonna basically take over the world, and the comic kind of ends there. It just shows him, like I said, looking for the Dreadnoks. Again, this is just it's an origin story. It just kind of basically showed his background. I don't really recommend this book that much. It's one of the weakest of the actual Energon universe comics. If you go read anything from the Transformers so far, great. Void Rivals, it's pretty good. Duke is actually really good. Duke becomes after he encounters Starscream, he becomes like racked with guilt because I guess his wingman gets killed in that situation. Yeah, he did. He got squished or something by Starscream, and so he tells his superiors, and they said, "Oh, that never happened. That all that stuff is classified." And they basically gaslight him into thinking he's crazy or whatever. So he breaks off from the government for a while, and he goes to search for his own answers. And he ends up looking in like the conspiracy theory section of the internet to meet up with this person who basically tells him, "Yes, you are correct. This is all going on. There are these robots. I've detected more of them. They have this unique energy signature that I've detected on this planet. There is also another location where I've detected the same thing, and I need you to go look. And he goes there and infiltrates it, and it's that company Mars, and he finds he finds they have an army that they're basically building underground. They're building all the Cobra stuff, like their tank, I guess the his tank and all that stuff. They're building like tons of that stuff, and they're amassing an army. He gets he gets actually he gets caught and he gets thrown out and he's not killed, and he's like, what the heck's going on? And he ends up getting framed for murdering everybody at that conspiracy theory convention that he showed up to. So that's how Cobra gets at him. And then it's just since he was framed, now G.I. Joe has, if I remember right, it was Rock and Roll and Stalker are now looking for him, and they're trying to bring him to justice. Which, to me, that's a way better story than what I read in Cobra Commander. So this book, I would say, if you're really into the Energon series, go ahead and pick it up. But if you're like, I like Transformers, or I just want to read the G.I. Joe, you're probably okay for now. Once this picks up, I'll probably back to tell you whenever we get something worth reading. Okay, and you know what? Let's just skip over the Avengers Twilight, because nothing really happened in there either. So let's just move on to the main event, which is Daredevil, Guardian Devil, the audiobook discussion that we're going to have tonight. So
yeah.
On to this. Okay, so No H told us about a company called, or not company, it's just an audio series called Graphic Audio, and he mentioned that, or he sent us one day a link to Guardian Devil, the graphic audio, and I thought, that's awesome. Let's do that, because I've already read the book twice, and this will be a third time and I'll get to go through it. So, what did y'all think?
So
I like it.
Of course, I'm a huge fan of all the graphic audio productions, and I especially like the DC ones, but the Marvel ones I've listened to have also been really great. And this YouTube channel, I feel really bad because I don't have the specific name of it. Not like it'll matter too much, but this YouTube channel I stumbled upon happened to have like this crazy amount of a lot of the titles, and I'd been listening to like a DC one, and I happened to just kind of browse through. I'm like, hey, what do you know? They have a Daredevil, Guardian Devil, and thought that'd be really interesting. And what's also a bonus about this one, if you choose to go out and look for it, it's not that long. It's really, because I'm used to listening to the ones that are like
2.5 hours.
Like, yeah, something like that. You can get through it in like a day or two. It's not going to be that long. And I'm used to listening to the ones that take like 6 to 8 hours to get to get through. They're like parts 1 and 2. But this one was awesome because it's very like it's almost like if they made a movie, and they do, and the tagline of the company is a movie in your mind. So it's sort of like kind of like it feels like a longer movie, like a Martin Scorsese movie. You know what I mean? It feels like tatted alongside, but very entertaining the entire way through. And what I really like about these things, and Todd, you can speak to this a little. It's like, to me, every one of these I've listened to, especially the DC ones, they are the best adaptations. Probably my favorite of all, like live action, animation, whatever. I really like these because they're the closest. Are they like perfect? No, but they come pretty darn close.
They're pretty close, because I have the novel in front of me while I did a 1-to-1 comparison with this, and I have to say it is extraordinarily close to the actual comic. So if you go and you check out Guardian Devil, you're basically reading the book, just not seeing the visual. And funnily enough,
perfect.
This is one of my favorite ways to to enjoy one of these things, because having read it twice and then getting to just sit there and have somebody narrate it to me, I thought, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I love the full cast, the music, and because they're so close to the source material, I feel like there's a genuine enthusiasm about the comics, because like in a lot of these things and other titles I've listened to, they'll go out of the way, they'll cast a voice actor, record the line of some throwaway line from some throwaway character they could have easily edited out, and I
Mhm.
really like that they go through the trouble of doing this, and like they'll mention some character, like I don't think they mentioned like Gladiator per se or something, but something along those lines. You know what I mean? And I really like the voice actor they got to, you know, portray Daredevil in this. I was like, I totally believed, and I don't know when this came out. I don't know because a lot of these graphic audio
Uh,
things are out of
the
circulation.
graphic audio? I don't know. I know when the comic came out, but I don't know when the
Oh, I
graphic
remember.
audio
I
came out.
remember picking up the comic when it came out. So yeah, it's a
Yeah, it
and
was an 8 issue. It was an 8 issue series, and it came out in
God,
2001.
yes, that sounds about right. Yeah,
Yeah, that
and
was around the time that Kevin Smith was doing lots of comic book writing
I
because
think
he
he
Green
did
did
Green
Arrow.
Arrow as well.
Green Arrow, and
Yeah, the Green
also
Arrow.
Kevin Smith likes to give people AIDS in his comic
Yes, he
books.
does. My God.
So because that was also the Mia Dearborn, she's like, I've got AIDS. So that
Yeah.
must have been a pressing topic in the early 2000s,
Maybe that's how he lost all that weight. I don't know,
maybe.
I
but
don't know.
I really like the voice acting in this. I really, and it's funny. Like it's because it's Daredevil. If you actually knew a blind person, they could finally kind of read a Daredevil comic. You know what I mean? And
Exactly. Yeah.
and it was
Um.
refreshing to hear Black Widow actually sound Russian.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I thought about that whenever I heard that voice actress, I thought, oh my gosh, she kind of sounds like the lady who played. If you ever, we just mentioned this a second ago. Metal Gear Solid 2,
Oh
the
yeah.
daughter of the first bad guy, the daughter who became the cyber ninja. I
Mhm.
swear to God, those are the same two actresses because she
and
sounds so much like her.
and it's really and I don't know if she's actually Russian, but if not, she did a really
Yeah, she did a good job.
good impression because it can so easily be moose and squirrel. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I was like, that doesn't sound like Scarlett Johansson. What is this?
Yeah, that doesn't
Well,
sound
then
like
I can't
Colossus
remember.
from X2.
Refresh my memory on this. Did Scarlett Johansson try to? Did she try at all to do an accent at the beginning? I kind
I
of don't
don't
remember.
remember ever
I
bothering
know
to
that
do an
whenever they
accent.
did the X-Men movie, Halle Berry tried for like 5 seconds to do kind of
Mhm.
an African, affectation, but it just never came off, and it
And
immediately got swept under the rug.
Yeah.
did
Like,
it
yeah.
and X-Men 2, did Colossus talk at all? I don't remember him.
I don't
Maybe
think
he
so.
did.
Oh,
I
I
don't
think he
think.
said like "come here" or "come with me" or
Yeah.
when he was
All he did
rescuing
was
the
carry
kids.
kids out of
Yeah.
exposition. That was
Can you say
No,
comrade
no,
or
he's all, "I
something?
can
Help
help."
me out.
Oh, yeah, he did say
I
because
can
remember
help.
Wolverine?
Yeah.
"I can help." He says that. That's about
Yeah.
it.
He goes,
Yeah,
I can
but
help, comrade.
it wasn't until Deadpool, you're like, oh my god, finally.
Yeah, they actually did a really, really good version of him in that one. So, what did y'all
But
think about the story overall as it went? This is one of the this is a story that I like. It was way wordy because it was by Kevin Smith. It was the first
Mhm.
time. I think this was the first time he'd ever done a comic. But I was really taken into this one by the fact that like Daredevil's faith is like up front and center in this book, and
Yeah.
that it's somebody it takes a third stringer villain and makes him an actual threat for once.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, and he uses he tells you at the end because it kind of had the classic thing where he drives the hero to do something that he would never do or would never contemplate doing, and then he starts to basically do the same thing to every one of his loved ones, and then at the end he monologues. So it kind of
yeah,
and he had the classic trap of like, oh, the baby's gonna die in this vacuum if you have 20 minutes for the baby to, you have to listen to what I'm saying right now or the baby
Yeah.
dies.
Yeah.
And so I did like how it had that classic kind of like superhero scenario, but everything in the middle just built up to this. I mean,
yeah. It was
Foggy getting framed, Natasha getting her ass kicked by Daredevil because he's all hopped up,
yeah,
Mephisto showing up, the poor girl that thought she was pregnant, the
yeah.
uh, all that was just so good and so well done.
And it felt like such a fun comic book world. Like he goes to Doctor Strange's.
Yes, my favorite part.
Yeah.
I love how he just goes to Doctor Strange and Spider Man is there to like. I love that you really feel like he's like immersed in this superhero world or version of New York. But it's funny at the end when Mysterio is monologuing. I'm like, okay, so I guess maybe the point is he's like, you have like X amount of minutes before, like 20 minutes before this baby's gonna die, but you have listened to me talk, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
drone on. But I'm like, Daredevil must have been like, it's been like 25 minutes. The baby's dead. Can we just move on?
because he monologues, man. It is a
Good
let me
grief.
tell you this gigantic story before this baby dies.
At least
I was
he
like,
had like a reason to be monologuing, right? That's,
mm-hmm.
or unless I missed that, but and I kind of like when I first started listening to it, I was like, who was the villain again? And then like he mentions clues, and because I read it before a long time ago, I'm like, oh yeah, it's him. And so it's fun to listen to it now. He'll like, now you listen to those clues and it's like, oh yeah, of course. But
Mhm.
when you're first reading it, you have no clue, which made
No,
it
no, no,
so
yeah. Until they get to like, if I remember right, oh yeah, we can tell right here. Until they got to the 7th issue, you didn't know. Well, I'm gonna guess. Here's what if I remember right. You find out in the 6th that it's Mysterio, and on the 7th, Mysterio is on the cover. So this is it is a true mystery until you get to this point. And then the fact that they have like they had the angels in that one character, his name was like Ball or whatever, and he's supposed to be an angel, and that's what leads him to go talk to Doctor Strange because he's like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything going on? Is the Redeemer, the Christ Redeemer coming back? And I think it's great when Mephisto Mephisto shows up, and he's like, I don't think you've read your Bible very well. If I
Yeah.
remember right, he's gonna come back as the lion and not as the lamb. And I was like, yes, Mephisto does know his
Yeah,
Bible.
of course Mephisto would know. But
Yeah, and so I thought that was a really cool part in the book. Um, I do think it's a little bit of a redundancy the way Karen Page was killed. You know,
yeah, I got to be honest with you. I thought she had already died at one point. You know what I mean? Like I get, I
she
guess
might
Matt
as well have
Murdock's.
died, dude. She was on Smack. She was doing porn. Uh,
Yeah,
everything. That girl was put through the ringer. I don't think anybody liked her, and that's
was
when we kept.
was that all like before Kevin Smith started writing, or was that
I
all
believe
Yeah,
so. Yeah,
and whenever you read the what is it, Daredevil Born Again, she the whole premise of that, what kickstarts that whole comic book series is that Karen Page is like on the way on smack, and she's like her looks are going downhill, and she needs another hit. Well, she has no more money. She has no more. She can't sleep with enough dudes to get a crack rock or nothing. I mean, she is destitute, and she only has one piece of currency left, and it's the fact that she knows who Daredevil is. She sells that to one of the drug dealers. Well, he just happens to have connections to the Kingpin, and that's how the Kingpin finds out Daredevil's secret identity. And then they even make reference to that in this book because whenever he remember at the end how she does that big long she has that the death letter, right?
yeah,
yeah.
The will, her last will and testament. She says, go ahead and do something for yourself, and then they go to the is it I forget what the name of it is. Is it Bauer? I'm trying to think of where that is. Anyways, they go to that spot where it's like a vacant lot, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna
Where's Brownstone was?
yeah, yeah.
brownstone exactly." They go there, and he says, "You want to join me?" And he's like, "Oh, Nelson Mark," because that in the Born Again story that got blown up, and it's still blown up
Hmm.
in this book. He never rebuilt on it. He owns a lot, but he never rebuilt on it. And so I like that was one of the things that really got me about this is like Kevin Smith. You could tell as much as I don't like that guy, he could tell that he liked Daredevil. He read Daredevil. He knew the history of this character, so he took that in there. And from what I hear is whenever they were first working on this book, it was Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, and they were waiting on the script from him, and they said they were waiting a long time, and he like blown a deadline or something like that, and they hadn't heard from him, so they go and call, or I guess it was Jimmy who called, and he said, "Hey man, like when is this going to happen?" And he talked to Kevin Smith. He says, he found out that he's like super duper nervous and that he was like so like I have to get this right, and so he had lots of reverence for the character and he just really didn't want to screw this up. And I was like, well, that's if you like the character and you're that dedicated to making a good story, then yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I liked his run on Green Arrow too. So
yeah.
I
enjoyed that one. And like, so I have a frog in my throat or a foggy. No, that was the other way. But
I thought Foggy got put to the ringer, dude. He gets he loses what's her name, Liz Osborne.
Yeah.
And she's not like an ugly woman in the book. She's an attractive woman, and she has this vast fortune, and he just totally screws it up on some strain. I was like, might have not done that, especially with the divorcing chick that I was representing.
Kevin Smith's like, I'm going to kill love interest, or they're just going to be left single by my end of my run.
Well, yeah, and he did a good job of leaving it to like, the continuing adventures. They have a new jumping off point, but and I'm a huge mark for all the graphic audio things, so I especially like this one because it's hard to, you would think it'd be easier being an audio production, but you have to describe a lot of visual stuff in a way that's like pure sonically being perceived, and so maybe that made it easier for the production crew, just have all the sound effects, but I can't say enough how much I enjoyed the voice actor for Matt, because I'm like, him and Charlie Cox, I'm like, that's pretty much what he would sound like, I guess. I don't know how, but
yeah, they did a good job. They did a good job. Yeah, well voice acted. I liked everybody I heard. I thought even Foggy, I was like, that's great. I was a little iffy on Spider-Man, but poor Spider-Man, he's basically talking like this all the time. I was like, I understand why you're doing it, but put an actual mask over your mouth. It doesn't really sound like how they did it in this book. But still good. It was a good performance.
Yeah, and cannot recommend enough. I really enjoy these things, and so I've been listening to these for a while, and really happy I stumbled upon this YouTube channel, because like all the ones I want to listen to, you talk about price hikes. So there's like some DC ones I wanted to listen to, like DC 52 I wanted to listen to, and I was like, all right, I'll just buy the actual thing. Well, if you go to like Amazon, I'm like, I will not spend $50 on this. I will not spend 30 to 50.
Are they just out of print now? Is that what
they're just out of circulation? They were produced like some of these were produced back in like 2007, but they have a lot of like the Marvel ones you can still find. Like I listened to the Secret Wars, like the original Secret Wars. That was a lot of fun too.
See, I want to do that one.
That was really fun. Yeah. That one's longer, but it was fun.
I listened to the Crisis one. That was really good.
I really like that one because and
I'm waiting on my copy of Crisis, so we need to do that one as well. So I think we need to make this like a thing we do more often. We need to talk about books, about the graphic audios that they did. So I'm down for that.
Cool.
Well, to twist my arm.
Well, I think we're about done, boys.
Yeah.
I think we're at the hour and a half mark, so let's just call it there.
I
want to thank everybody who go ahead.
I was gonna say, I want to point out, like, every time we end this, Noach jumps off immediately. He thinks we're done. We can still talk after we stop. So
but Noach's gotta go right to bed. He's in bed right now. His head is on the pillow.
But stick around this time. Stick around after the thing this time.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody who showed up for the Middle-Aged Mutants, whether you disagreed with us or not, and quite a few people disagreed. Well, 2 people disagreed with us. We got some nasty comments. But anyways, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Middle-Aged Mutant Show. Later.